culture. Again, if this is the bodily appearance is the most likely hypothesis, then it should be taken as the most logical one. I collected all these pictures, hoping to give you a break from one section to another, but now I'm wrapping up things together. I'm bringing all the pictures together to the last one, which is the supernatural objective theory. This theory, it takes the biblical text as credible testimony, and the scripture is at face value, accurate representation of what the disciple experienced at that time. Someone said that to prove the resurrection, we're not going to prove it in the scientific way that we expect today, but in the historical sense, it will be enough evidence and adequate to build a respectable hypothesis. Another thing I'm going to touch base on, what do you have instead that will be challenging? And as we have seen, all of the other theories are not really meeting that challenge. Touch and go really, the tomb. The fact that the grave cloth were left behind showed that the body was not carried off by thieves or others, so no one stole the body. Their position suggests that they were not unwrapped, but the body passed through them like going through locked doors. So he went through the cloth as he went through locked door. I read an article, I'm just mentioning Shroud of Turin. It says that Jesus passed on a subatomic level, and they had two physicists who are supporting this by theories. It's worth mentioning, it's worth looking into it as a scientific part of the resurrection. The physicality of Jesus' body. The stone of the tomb needed to be removed to let the resurrected body come out. Jesus ate, broke bread with the disciples, was touchable, and his body had the physicality or physical marks of the crucifixion. Someone said that they did not recognize him because he was not the same person, but actually Christ had to go through suffering to reach his glorious body, the glorious body. Plus, they were not really expecting him to come back. The followers of Jesus suddenly believed in him as Lord. That's a very good article I read. They did not believe him as a rabbi who came from the dead, which should be. I mean, hey, our master was dead, now he's alive, our master is alive. Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus came. Lazarus is still Lazarus. So they should have believed in Jesus as their rabbi. But no, that's not the case. They suddenly believed in him as Lord and God. They understood that his resurrection was an approval from the Father, that Jesus is the Son of God and he is his glory. That kind of faith does not come before, but comes after the appearances. And as a proof, Thomas and Paul are examples. Someone said that he went to heaven, Jesus went to heaven like Elijah, but Elijah did not die, so I cannot give this same example. More evidence first. All of a sudden, the Christians started to regard the first day of the week as their special day. There must be a reason for that. There is no evidence that anyone ever venerated Jesus' tomb. Like the ladies, the women rested on the Sabbath and they were going to the tomb to just anoint his body and honor him. There was no secondary burial performed for Jesus. That's an interesting point. They said that Jesus was buried as a part of two-stage burial. The first stage is what you did. You happen to bury the person in a tomb. The second stage will come after 6 to 8 months later on, when the person will decompose and become a bunch of bones. Then they will take that, they will go to the second stage to honor that person, remove the body, put them in a special place, different, and then make the tomb ready for the next person who would be using it. Now I remembered why they said that Jesus was put in a brand new tomb that no one was put in it before. Because that's the custom that, you can put someone there after 9 months or so, you remove the bones and, you put the new dead person, you can use it for the family for generations. That was not done to Jesus. which means that he didn't need it because he was not in the tomb. Jesus also predicted his death many, many times, and this has to be taken for something here. Lastly, I want to talk about necessary and sufficient. Two things were really historical, that the tomb was empty and that Jesus appeared to the disciples. The tomb by itself could not have generated the belief. The empty tomb could be empty because grave robbery was very common and not resurrection. And we saw this happen when when Mary Magdalene or Peter and John went to the tomb. When it was empty, they did not say he was resurrected. They thought someone took him or something we cannot explain. Seeing the post-resurrection appearances by themselves could be hallucination if we have the body in the tomb. But the two of them together, they are offering a strong, sufficient condition. The empty tomb and the appearances brought together form in combination a sufficient condition for the rise of the early Christian belief. All right, is it necessary? Are the empty tomb and the appearances also necessary? Well, if you can bring another theory that will explain what happened better than this one, then the appearances and the empty tomb are not necessary. They are not. But as we have seen, a careful examination of all the possibilities presented show that the resurrection hypothesis is the best explanation. The combination of the tomb and the appearances is the only possible explanation for the early Christian faith. The combination forms a set of circumstances which are both necessary and sufficient for the rise of the Christian belief. In conclusion, the fact that dead people do not ordinarily rise to life is not an objection. It's what we believe. The only difference is that dead people do not return to life naturally. We believe that Jesus did not return to life naturally, but in a supernatural way. None of the competing theory offers a logical and acceptable explanation of the post-resurrection appearances. Every argument of them, as I mentioned, falls apart when under careful scrutiny. Christianity has spread because the disciples believed the fact that they have encountered the risen Christ in a physical form, and their kerygma proved that. And again, if the bodily appearances hypothesis turns to be the most logical, best explanation of what happened, it should be taken as the most logical and reasonable cause of the faith and the kerygma of the disciples. I want to apologize for the length of the video one more time, and I want to thank you for listening, and I'll be available, I guess, in a class for questions. Thank you.